Let's remind you that in Zamfara State, the governor has shut down 3 television stations following a violent clash between supporters of the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Party. And to help us have this conversation, we are joined by Dr. Aminu Idris. He is a lecturer with the Department of Political Science, Federal University, Gusau. Good to have you join us, Dr. Idris.
Thank you very much.
So speak to us about this. What's your reaction to the fact that now campaigns have now been banned, and political activities in general have now been banned in Zamfara State because of the security situation? The governor says, or the government says, that there is now a resurgence of the activities of bandits, and so political campaigns and political activities have been suspended.
Yeah, I think for most of us, the announcement came to us as a surprise. And I think, first of all, we need to understand that the announcement surrounding the banning of political campaigns and activities in the state is, for me, is politically motivated. And of course, it's a policy that came at the wrong time. The announcement came at the very wrong time. If you remember very well, the 2022 Electoral Act made it very clear that the political activities, particularly campaign, will kick up by September. And of course, the Electoral Commission have lifted that ban, and of course, it is expected that the candidates of different political parties will now engage the electorate to seek for their votes, and of course, only for the state government to come up with that policy and ban political activity. And of course, for me, we need to be very careful as regards the timing of our policies and programs of government, because
Dr. Aminu, just allow me to put you on hold for a minute. I will come back to you in just a moment. But I need to inform our viewers that we're crossing over now to Kaduna State, where the presidential candidate of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is meeting with the Arewa Forum in that state. Right, Dr. Aminu, you were saying earlier about the situation in Zamfara. Please go ahead.
Because if you know, the Northwest generally is highly insecure because of the activities of the bandits, that are engaged in kidnapping, cattle rustling, arson, and the rest of that. And I think for the government, not only Zamfara State Government, I think the governments all over the Northwestern state need to be very careful with the kind of policies that they come up with, especially in this particular political era. Of course, I think with this, the State government need to also understand that opposition is one of the ingredients of democracy, and banning political activities in the states, whether it is political rally, it's political campaign, meetings, and the rest of that, has the tendency of creating a kind of political violence across the states. And of course, the peace in the state is so fragile, the insecurity is so high. I think the state government needs to be very careful not to do anything, or not to add to the already ongoing situation that is that is so fragile. I think going forward, we need to be very careful. This policy has this tendency of creating another cycle of political violence.
But Dr. Aminu, the government, the
banditry crisis.
The state government is saying, look, it is because of that same security. That's why they are banning political activities, and that there is a resurgence of bandit activities. And I don't hold brief for the state government, but when you look at the level of attacks we've seen and kidnaps we've seen in that region recently, you don't think that the state government is justified in that for that decision? Do you think that there is a political motivation to that decision that the government made?
Yeah, it is. For me, it is a political decision, because for the past 3, 4, 5 years, we have been facing these similar attacks. We have been facing a kind of upsurge in the attacks, particularly in rural communities. Now they have extended to rural communities and moving to conquered local government headquarters and the rest of that. But my question is, why now? I think in some past months or thereabouts, we have experienced even more than this. Why didn't the state government declare the banning of political activities then? Why now? That's the kind of question we keep asking. And I think we need to be very careful, because already the peace in the state has been compromised, I think we shouldn't do anything that will further complicate the situation. The security and peace in the state is very fragile. I think we need to do something, of course, that will create stability, not further worsen the situation that we are in already. Now look at what happened since the announcement. How many people have been killed, many people have been injured, and of course the official figure is just one. But I can tell you, I think it's more than that. You go to the hospital beds at the Federal Medical Center and the specialist hospital, you see many injured patients there receiving treatment. And I think going forward, we need to be very careful with this kind of policies that we introduce in this state. And I think the second thing we need to also look at, of course, if you talk about banning of political activities, and I think, why do you also shut down media stations? I think we rely on media to give us the situation in the states, but only for the state government to come up again and say they've shut down the NTA, they've shut down the Govt television and other radio stations in the state. I think for me that doesn't make any sense. I think it will not add to the peace or security in the state. It will further complicate issues, and I think that is one thing we need to be very careful of.
I wish we could talk about the impact that this will have on the outcome of the election, but we'll continue to monitor the situation there in Zamfara State, especially how the opposition parties will react to this. Thank you so much for talking to us, a lecturer with the Department of Political Science, Federal University Gusau, Dr. Aminu Idris.
Thank you very much for having me.